How's it going, everyone? The start of the NFL season for 2023 is finally here, and it feels like it's been forever. Definitely taking some time off because, well, the last month was pretty boring. But day one of training camp has started for the Packers, and there have been some notable things that we are seeing with already just the first day. So to start off, we had a couple players who did not practice. We had Rashawn Gary with the ACL injury and Eric Stokes with his foot injury on the PUP list. That's nothing shocking. Then we had a couple of other players on the non-football injury list, and that was linebacker, safety. He's now listed as linebacker. They moved him, but he was a safety. Tariq Carpenter, safety Tarvarius Moore, and offensive tackle Caleb Jones, all out with an illness. And then wide receiver Grant DeBose with a back injury. Kind of sucks for him because if he's going to try to make a roster spot, because we do have a bit of a crowded wide receiver room, he's going to have to show up hopefully soon for his case. But for the first day of training camp, he did not participate due to the back injury. Now, for the starting offense, we had the usual suspects starting for us in Jordan Love, and with his first official day starting as QB1 for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Jones was starting at running back, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs at receiver. We played a lot of 12 personnel, so we had 2 receivers, 1 running back, and 2 tight ends starting for a lot of this training camp. So at tight end, we had Luke Musgrave and Josiah DeGuara with the first team, and it looks like Tucker Kraft is still trying to get his bearings under, and he hasn't passed Josiah DeGuara yet on the depth chart. I feel like that's going to eventually happen with how talented he is, but as of right now, he is listed 3rd on the depth chart. And also, all 4 tight ends did get reps with the first team, but mostly it was Luke Musgrave and Josiah DeGuara. Then along the offensive line, this is where it got a little bit interesting to see. David Bakhtiari was at left tackle, Elton Jenkins at left guard, Josh Myers at center, John Runyon Jr. at right guard, and Zach Tom pretty much played the entirety of all the snaps at right tackle over Yosh Nijman. Now, Matt LaFleur did say that David Bakhtiari is going to be on a modified practice schedule throughout training camp due to that knee injury. And as we saw last year, he didn't really have to practice to be one of the best tackles at left tackle for us. So it's not too concerning. It looks like they just want to play the safe approach with Bakhtiari, which is smart because that knee is a problem, and it's going to be a problem for pretty much probably his entire career. So Bakhtiari, he played half the snaps with the first team, and then when he didn't, Yosh Nijman subbed in for him and played at left tackle. But it's just interesting to note that Zach Tom pretty much got all the reps with the first team at right tackle. And Zach Tom also did get some reps at center with the 3rd string team. So I feel like Zach Tom's going to be our right tackle at this rate, unless they want to try and see if he'll go at center and put Nijman at right tackle. But it looks like they might be trying to test a contingency plan because Bakhtiari's health with his knee is so suspect. For the day, Jordan Love ended up going 7 for 14. It was kind of a rough weather day. It had some on and off rain, but it was very windy. So Jordan Love definitely struggled when throwing against the wind. With some of the balls where he tried to throw deep, the ball definitely hung up, and it allowed the defense to kind of get back into position and knock the ball away. It happened when Luke Musgrave was going deep. He was wide open, but the ball stayed in the air and allowed the defender to knock it down. But at the end of the day, Jordan Love did have a decent showing. He had no interceptions. He didn't really have any awful throws. It's just the ball hung up in the air, and it's tough to throw against. It was a very, very windy day. So throwing against this high wind, a very talented defense on paper, if they can put it together finally this year, it's not a terrible showing. And it's the first day, got to get the rust off. And it's also just trying to get chemistry with the offense. He's obviously got chemistry with Romeo Doubs, and now is still on display this day on training camp. So it's just trying to get acclimated. So I wouldn't really take too much out of this 7 for 14. Strong connection with Doubs, has a good connection with Watson, now trying to get it with Luke Musgrave, and that's what training camp's for. On to the defense side, during the base 3-4 that we played, we had Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, and TJ Slayton along the defensive line, with Preston Smith and Justin Holland shockingly on the edge, with Lucas Van Ness not starting with the first team, which was a very big shock to see because I thought he'd be on opposite side of Preston Smith. I'm sure he'll eventually crack the first line. I'm not sure how long, but as of right now, it's Justin Hollins. And it's kind of like with Rashawn Gary when we got it. It's kind of a long-term project. Like, he's got some work he needs. He's got the talent. He's athletic. At the super high RAS score that the Packers like. And they're just going to have to develop him. So, yes, he didn't start today, but nothing really to concern. Then we had Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt at inside linebacker, with Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas on the corner slots, and Darnell Savage and Rudy Ford was the other starting safety for us. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out throughout training camp and during the offseason, and if he can actually hold on to that safety position. He had a good start with us, especially in that Dallas game, and then he kind of tethered off a little bit and struggled, and that's where it allowed Darnell Savage to kind of come back into play. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can have some type of consistency, because that's what the Packers are looking for on the defensive side, is consistency. Yes, you can show up for plays or maybe a game, but if you're not showing up consistently, you're not going to keep your job. So something to keep a lookout on. Then when they went into the nickel personnel, Keshawn Nixon did play nickel for all the reps there, and he had a pretty good showing. Was able to knock the ball with Jair Alexander on the last drive for the Packers. So good showing on Keshawn Nixon, and he's probably going to be a lock at this rate until Eric Stokes comes back. And when he comes back, it's going to be interesting what the Packers do. But as of right now, we don't even have a timetable officially of when he could return. Then lastly, another thing to note for the defense, Jonathan Garvin, who played outside linebacker for us for the last 3 years, they have shifted him onto the interior defensive line, which is a little shocking. Yes, we had a very crowded outside linebacker room, and the Packers must see something in him, and they want to try to give him another shot, because if he stays at outside linebacker, he probably wasn't going to make the roster and stay with the team. So they moved him to interior defensive line, but he is very undersized for that position. He's 6'4", 257 pounds, which is severely underweight, and I don't see how that could work. So it's going to be interesting what the Packers are thinking there to even attempt this, because he definitely does not have the size. Moving on to the special teams, we have Anders Carlson, our rookie kicker, who's replacing Mason Crosby. A little sad to see that Mason Crosby is officially gone, but I get it. We needed a new kicker, especially with the leg diminishing in power. So Anders Carlson, he went 2 for 3 during this training camp. He made from 40 and 42 yards, but missed a 44-yard. But the lack of power in the leg is non-existent. There is definitely some power in this guy's leg. So he'll probably be our kickoff specialist and hopefully actually be able to make some 50-plus yard field goals. So either way, good showing, 2 for 3, 40 and 42 yard made, 44-yard miss, but it was a very windy day. That kind of recaps day 1 of the Packers training camp. Definitely some notables with Lucas Van Ness not starting, and also Zach Tom looks like he's got a very firm hand or grasp on that right tackle spot. But it's going to be interesting as the offseason continues, especially once we get into preseason games and how these players perform. This was a 90-minute practice. There were no pads. They were in shorts, and they had those weird little like spongy helmets and not official helmets. So this is kind of take it with a grain of salt. This is an outlook of where we're currently at, but it could all change once the pads come on, and that's when it's going to really matter, especially if these players are performing. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, go Pack Go.